Hello, beautiful people, once again. I'm Anika, and this is episode 16 of Rewrite Your Story. Today's episode is part two of the 12-part series on how to design the blueprint of your ideal life, in which we're using the Lifebook model to break down our vision of life into 12 categories, which covers every aspect of our world. Yesterday's episode covered the health and fitness category, a very important one, which impacts not just our bodies, but our minds, our emotional health, our mental health, as well as our spiritual health, and thereby how we respond and react to those around us. In today's episode, we're going to be covering a second aspect, a category that I am most excited about on the Lifebook, the intellectual category. This category is about the mind, the intellectual aspect of our life. So the mind is our limit. However, our mind does not have a mind of its own. What we think, we become. That is why this category holds the key to what your ideal life can be thought of and how you can rewrite your story to achieve it. So we talked about how our past holds the key to who and where we see ourselves in our story today, right? The experiences or the situations or events that we may have gone through in our life so far shapes what we believe and how we think. And that has manifested our today. So today, in our present, which we have a control over, we actually hold the key on how to manifest our tomorrow, our future. And that starts with this category. The category that can shape the way how we think about every other category of our life. Because if we're able to change what we believe in, change how we think, we'll be able to change the lens with which we're looking at our world. We'll be able to change the perspective. And that's when we will be fully equipped to be able to rewrite the story that we want to on our own terms for the life that we want to live and love. See, what separates us from any other species on this planet is our mind. But it's not just having it, which makes it special or different. It's us choosing to use it beyond limitations that we set for ourselves. Who we are today is a manifestation of what we thought yesterday, and thereby how that story unfolded into how and where we are today. We are the creators of our own reality. Life may not feel like it's set or defined on our own terms today. But do we want it to feel the same tomorrow? Do we want our past that manifested our today continue to govern the way that our tomorrow is written and realized? We've got a choice. We've got a choice of either taking the reins of how we want to design and live our life intelligently moving forward to our tomorrow, or just let life happen to us. We have a choice to live on autopilot or live consciously. We have a choice to live based on others' expectations or our own vision. We have a choice to let the future continue to be written by our past or rewrite our story. So, how are we going to do that as far as the intellectual category is concerned, and using the Lifebook model on outlining the vision for what we want our mind to be able to grow into and empower us to be for tomorrow? So we're going to use the same model that we did yesterday in yesterday's video to tackle the health and fitness category, which is Lifebook's PVPS model. P stands for your premise or your belief systems. V is the vision for that particular category, followed by P, which stands for your purpose, your why, and lastly, with S, the action plan, right? So let's tackle this on what should be the type of questions that you want to ask yourself to put down your premise, your vision, your purpose, and your strategy for the intellectual category of your life. When it comes to premise, how would you like to choose to believe about your mind? What is it that you want to believe that your mind is capable of doing or can be capable of doing? What kind of abilities would you like your mind to have? And here I'm not just talking about the technical or the knowledge abilities that you may perceive for yourself when it comes to improving yourself at the job that you are at today, or addressing certain gaps within your knowledge and expertise level to move from your corporate job to an entrepreneur tomorrow, or to start on a new business idea or a new project. So those are not the types of expertise and skills alone that I'm referring to over here, but these would be skills and abilities that you want your mind to have so that it is able to process the thinking that you go through in order to make decisions a lot better. When events happen, challenges present themselves, how do you want your mind to be able to process the context? Take a look at how you do it today. Do you want to be more emotionally regulated? Do you want to feel less anxious, less panicked? Do you want to feel more bold? Do you want to feel more courageous? In personal transformation, you may have heard or read that challenges are our perceptions in our mind. What may seem like a challenge to you may seem completely different to someone else. We talk about in a challenge, you can either take the perspective of limitations or you can take the perspective of opportunities. How would you like your mind to respond to such events or situations? How do you respond today? Do you want that to be different? You do have the ability to rewire yourself and change that. Enable your mind to be able to process your thinking from a place of opportunities instead of limitations. And that is what premise is all about. It's about the beliefs that you want to put behind the intellectual abilities and capabilities of your mind. Moving on to the vision. What sort of vision would you like to outline for yourself in the intellectual category? What is that ideal vision of how you see yourself intellectually in your ideal life tomorrow? And again, it's not being more intelligent on a subject matter, but how you see yourself living intelligently. We've all probably been to a gym or hired a fitness trainer at some point in our life, right? So when you do go to the gym or hire a fitness trainer, you set an outcome, a vision of losing or gaining weight, of improving muscle strength, of improving flexibility in your body, perhaps, of heightening or raising the bar on your endurance. Perhaps it's about your stamina. What is it that you want to train the most important muscle in your body for? Your brain, your mind. Do you want to train it for its content, or do you want to train it for its abilities? Or perhaps both? How would you like your mind to support you in achieving the vision you have for your life? This is where you put down, what do you want that mind to look like to support the person that you want to become in your ideal tomorrow? From here, we move on to the third piece of the model, which is defining your purpose behind the intellectual category of your life. The mind is our limit. In the world that we live in today, where information is growing so rapidly that our educational systems cannot keep up with it, not having a commitment to continuous learning is going to be very, very challenging and difficult for us in order to be able to save ourselves from becoming obsolete. We live in a world where camera films got replaced with iPhones and phone cameras. We live in a world where VHS and DVDs and CDs got replaced with OTT. We live in a world where landlines and rotary phones got replaced with mobile phones. Wireless communications. We live in a world where physical pieces of paper, which were used in exchange for goods and services, aka money, is getting replaced with physical transactions. How many of us actually carry bundles of cash in our wallets anymore? So think about all of those activities that you engage in on a daily basis or in your daily world, or things that you purchase. Observe how many of them have changed over the years. How many of your own practices in engaging in those activities have evolved over time? How many of those activities did you do as a kid that if you mentioned to your kids today, they'd probably laugh at you? Because it probably sounds like it came from an alien world, from a world which was before the disruption happened and before the digitization happened. Look at how things have become more digitized and autonomous. We're already talking about driverless cars. The more dependent we are becoming on technology, where things are becoming easier, faster, quicker. The problem is that the less dependent we are becoming on our own minds, the less dependent we are becoming on the ability to process our thinking. We're actually not challenging our minds enough to stay active. So under the purpose, this is something I'd like you to think about. I'd like you to think about, how would you like to optimize the use of your mind and the purpose behind the optimization of your mind? You thought about the premise and the vision behind your intellectual category. What are your motivations behind those visions? What is your purpose behind them? What about tomorrow's vision of your more intelligent self energizes you? What about it uplifts you? What is your why behind making yourself more conscious? I created glass ceilings for myself in my professional world, limitation boundaries to my learning and growth, and no entry, risky signs to my passions. Because I was looking at my life with a storyline that was created on several expectations, some of which were real, some of which were perceived, believing that I have the ability to live my life more intelligently empowered me to overcome these limitations that I had put down on myself, self sabotaging my path forward. With this belief, I could create a picture of business freedom that I had always aspired to. I also became better at how I see challenges, not just in my professional world, but in my personal world. I was able to also see how there was growth and evolution in the way that I process my thinking around them, and thereby how I respond to events, situations, and challenges today. By taking the time to think intelligently about your PVPS across the various categories in your life, I believe that you too can rewrite your story and manifest it into your ideal vision. And from there, we move on to what are those action steps, that high level strategy that you want to incorporate into your world today to support your choice of living intelligently and bringing your vision into reality. What kind of positive habits, attitudes, and action steps can you think of implementing? What is the recipe for this vision that you want to create include? For me, I had to start with deliberate thinking. I had to train myself to think about my needs, my wants, my desires. I had to train myself to become curious, to ask questions, not just for my today, but for my ideal tomorrow. I consciously set aside routinely some time to go over the different categories of my life and my life book so that I can assess where I am with it today. It's like a regular project update meeting with myself to see how I'm doing with the strategies that I put down aligned to the purpose behind the visions that I created that were built over the premise for all of the categories of my life book. It also gives me the opportunity to update these categories as I grow and develop, as situations change, and I begin to think bigger or different within a particular category. The visions that you come up with across all of the categories of your life through the life book are your roadmap on what areas of learning or intellectual nourishment you want to invest into. We covered health and fitness yesterday. Today, we've covered the intellectual category. It's not just about learning about the reading or the research that you want to do in order to enlighten or evolve or grow yourself in the different categories of your life. When we are thinking about the mind, I also want you to think about all of those engagements and interactions that you would want to have in your life in order to support the growth of your intellectual category. Do the people in your world have the ability to contribute towards the kind of positive impact that you want to bring about in your intellectual category or the different categories of your life? Are there any groups, networks, or communities that you want to think about to add to your sources of intellectual growth? Under the strategy, you want to think about all the types of sources. These could be books that you want to read. These could be the type of movies that you want to watch. It could be podcasts that you want to listen to. It could be certain influencers or subject matter experts that you want to follow online. It could also be the hiring of a coach or a mentor or an advisor. It could also be finding those tribes of people that you want to engage with like-mindedness and shared interests, so that you can keep your mind regularly challenged, nourished, and elevated with the kind of growth that you seek for your ideal tomorrow. Thanks very much for listening. We will continue our 12-part series on tackling the different categories of your life using the Lifebook model over the next 10 days. We will continue with the category of emotional health tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, take care and stay awesome.